Welcome to Beauty and the Biz. Discover how to grow your practice with effective cosmetic patient attraction, conversion, and retention advice from author, speaker, trainer, and cosmetic practice business and marketing coach, Catherine Maley, MBA.
Hello, and welcome to Beauty and the Biz, where we talk about the business and marketing side of plastic surgery. I'm your host, Catherine Maley, author of Your Aesthetic Practice, What Your Patients Are Saying, as well as consultant to plastic surgeons to get them more patients and profits. Now, today's podcast is called The Perfect Consultation because it is absolutely imperative to know what your patients want, what they think about you and your practice and your staff, and how to set expectations for the greatest amount of patient satisfaction. So, using a survey, I researched consumers personally to learn firsthand what they were looking for when searching for a surgeon to perform cosmetic enhancement. Now, the survey statistics and responses can be found in my book, Your Aesthetic Practice, What Your Patients Are Saying. And actually, you can get that on my website at catherinemaley.com. It's free. You just cover the shipping, and you'll have all the details. So my objective was to determine trends and commonalities to help you understand these patients better. So here are some of my findings. Now, the main reason both genders were considering cosmetic procedures was to improve their looks so they felt better about themselves, and that gave them increased confidence. So that's a very emotional decision they're making. Now, 90% of the time, confidence in the surgeon's ability and staff interaction were more important than price. Keep that in mind. 86% of them referred at least two other people to your practice. 40% researched their procedure on the internet ahead of time, so they felt well informed. And with a caveat, in today's world, like it just changed so much during COVID, I'll bet that number is up to 95%. And then 75% went on multiple consultations before deciding. Long waiting times were a reoccurring complaint, always have been and continue to be, and that's not good for customer service. And the better the staff, the less time the surgeon had to spend with the patient during the consultation. So while this was interesting, it was apparent that I could not generalize about patient relations, especially when it pertained to people's preferences. And everybody was so darn different and their perceptions were so varied, such as, while some thought an aesthetically gorgeous office indicated pride and success, others thought it was over the top and intimidating, and they wondered why they were paying for it in high prices. And then while some thought the doctors didn't spend enough time with them and they felt rushed, other patients thought too much time with them made them wonder why the doctor wasn't busier. And then while some thought the doctor was so thorough explaining the various procedures available, others felt completely oversold and overwhelmed and confused with so many options. So I probed further and I asked, bottom line, why they chose that particular practice over the others. And the consistent answer over and over was that the patient felt a connection with the surgeon and their staff. Their gut feeling or their intuition was telling them that this was the right surgeon for them. As a matter of fact, they often chose the surgeon in spite of the awful staff. Or the other way around. If the surgeon was abruptive and didn't have many people skills, they loved the staff. So it goes hand in hand. Now, they developed rapport and they treated that particular surgeon like a friend because the surgeon and the staff understood them and the surgeon offered the best possible result in their minds. So now we have to talk about rapport because it's so vital and it's really important to understand this. Now it's difficult to find and you either have it with your patient or you don't. So rapport is that bond you're building with your prospective patient, but it's undistinguishable. You can't see it, but it is the single most important personality skill an aesthetic physician needs to be successful. Now, I'm sure you've heard this. You build rapport through words, tone, and gestures, as well as commonalities, since 7% of what is communicated is through the words. Only 7%. 38% is through the tone of your voice. And then 55% is through your body language. Isn't that interesting? So, how do you create rapport? Well, first of all, the cosmetic patient wants to feel significant, period. So when a patient's spending their own money and time on elective cosmetic enhancement, they want to be treated respectfully and professionally and kindly by every person they encounter in the practice. They also need to be heard and understood. There's this old saying that says, before you can be understood, you must work to understand. And that is truly the case here. So we build rapport by creating or discovering things in common with the patient. Now, that can be as simple as talking with the patient about who referred them to your practice, or learning more about their profession or a little bit about their family. The point is to show interest in the prospective patient as a person first, and then patient second. Now, you can easily get this information from the patient information form sitting right in front of you. Just glance at it before entering the exam room and pick something to start your rapport with. Now, another way to build rapport is with mirroring. And this is old school, but it's just human nature. Now, this means you want to mimic your patient's breathing patterns, posture, tonality, and gestures, but in a discreet way so they don't think you're making fun of them. Now, people feel a lot more comfortable with people they believe are like them, and mirroring will make that happen. So if the patient talks fast, you talk fast. If the patient talks loud, you talk loud. If the patient is meek and quiet, you slow things down. Use the same terms and phrases the patient uses, and then be sure to avoid any medical jargon that the patient won't understand. Now, if you do this correctly, the patient's going to feel as if they found their soulmate, like somebody who really understands them and who can relate to them. That's when you've developed rapport and the patient feels that connection with you. So let's move on to educating your patient and setting expectations. When I asked the patients in my survey how they knew their expectations were being met, and they could say yes to that practice, their concerns were being addressed, and recommendations were explained, I got different answers. And why is that? Well, to keep it simple, there are three different learning styles. There's visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. So visual people want to see the results. Auditory people want to hear about the results. And kinesthetic people want to touch and feel the results. So all of us have elements of all three modes, but usually one mode dominates our decision and learning processes and how we perceive things. So you want to present your message in a way that gets through to the patient in the way they understand the best. Now, the easiest way for that to happen is to include all three modes of learning for everyone. Give them something visual, something auditory, and something kinesthetic. So you should show them things, let them hear things, and you should attach feelings and emotions to things. So some suggestions to use to help with this process during the consultation with the patient is to use your hand, your mirror, and a Q-tip to show patients facial skin lifting procedures, or show them before and after photo books of patients who are striving for similar results. And in today's world, I would hand them an iPad and let them touch and feel that. And they want to look at other patients, and especially those who share their same age, gender, or ethnicity. So be sure your before and after photos are diverse. And then computer imaging was overwhelmingly desired for illustrating results specific to the patient, and videos of procedures and patient testimonials on the iPad, of course, or on your computer in your consultation room, that can be well received, especially when explaining complex procedures. Now, let's go over the perfect consultation. Here's a description of the elements needed to carry out a successful consultation. Now, the following is from the patient's perspective and based on my survey findings. Number 1, knock on the door gently, greet the patient by name, introduce yourself while looking him or her in the eye and shaking hands. Number 2, spend 30 to 60 seconds learning more about the patient as a person. Comment on their occupation or perhaps the person who referred them, and you can get that information on their patient information form. Number 3, ask an open-ended question to get the ball rolling, such as, so Sarah, tell me what's bothering you, or tell me what you'd like to improve, or what can I do for you today? And here's number 4, listen. You must listen. While they tell you, you want to be nodding, look them in the eye, or even take notes so they know you're listening and understanding. Then number 5, now ask open-ended questions to determine if the expectations are reasonable, the results can be reached safely, and they are rational about the process. Number 6, determine where they are in the process. Now, a great question to ask is, what's most important to you when picking a surgeon? Or what are you looking for in a cosmetic physician? You can also ask, Have you talked with anyone else? And if so, what can I tell you that you don't already know? However, there is no room for bad mouthing your colleagues. It puts you in a bad light and makes you look worse than your competition. So you're just asking questions and then listening because it's going to help you feel out, is this a good candidate for you? And are you going to want to work with this person? Number 8, be sure they have completely and thoroughly relayed their concerns to you before you respond to them. It can be very tempting to interrupt with your recommendations, but you're going to get their attention much faster if you first give them your undivided attention. There is a survey that says physicians interrupt a patient within 18 seconds, and that is so true. Okay, number 9. Always show respect for the patient. Even though you're the expert and you know more, arrogance does not sell. If you come across as demeaning or condescending, you'll drive the prospective patient away. And then number 10, use words a layperson understands. Be concise and keep it simple. And then number 11, repeat back briefly to the patient the main points you heard, such as intended outcomes and the patient's concerns. Ask them if you've left anything out. And then number 12, look them in the eye to let them know you're confident, skilled, and experienced. So you've performed many of these surgeries or treatments with excellent results, and you're going to do the same for this patient. Now, a golden statement the patient wants to hear from you is, Sarah, you are an excellent candidate for this procedure. Number 13, reassure them that you can meet their expectations. Let them know you understand their concerns and fears, so they trust you and your recommendations. And the last one is number 14, prepare and rehearse a closing statement that sounds natural. So you want to tell the patient you look forward to working with him or her to help them look their best, and you look forward to seeing them again soon. So by treating every single prospective patient as a person first, patient second, and taking the time to develop rapport and gain trust, gets you a whole lot more yeses than, I've got to think about it. Because just as you try to tailor your treatment to fit the unique features of your patients, tailoring your consultation to your patient's unique personality will increase your closing ratio. Okay, that's it for this episode. I hope you found that informative, and please feel free to share this with your colleagues and or your staff. And then, of course, if you haven't already, please subscribe to Beauty in the Biz so you don't miss any upcoming episodes. And if you've got any questions or feedback for me or other topics you'd like me to address, just leave them on my website at CatherineMaley.com or DM me on Instagram at CatherineMaleyMBA. Thanks so much, and we'll talk again soon.
We hope you found valuable insight on this episode of Beauty in the Biz. For more episodes, tools, and Catherine's free book, visit www.catherinemaley.com. That's www.catherinemaley.com. And be sure to subscribe to get the latest practice building strategies delivered to you. And don't forget to share this Beauty in the Biz podcast with your staff and colleagues.